Messing around a little bit, just noodling, just pentatonic stuff. What what is not built around that scale? How the minor pentatonic? It's just like everything, you know. But a couple days off from work and just spending some time, you know, playing the guitars and you know, just thinking back recently. You know, I was talking to a buddy of mine, and you know, he's I guess he's what you'd call a beginner intermediate level player, and you know, he's just getting to the point where he's you know, he knows how to play a song and he's chords and everything like that. We were talking about, you know, what was like some of the riffs that you remember when you were learning, that you heard that were just, you know, like that's cool, and where you actually started to not just the riff and the melody of the song or the progression, but like the actual tone. When did you start paying attention to, you know, how the guitar sounded? Like, you know, like, and I'm not saying like, whoa, that's a badass, you know, overdrive, crazy, you know, echo and delay and reverb, you know, because I think anybody in my generation is going to go, yeah, I remember Eddie when he, you know, came on the scene. But I mean, like, when did you really like think about like, man, listen to that guitar. It's got the right amount of saturation. It's got the right amount of this. It's got the right attack. And for me, I think that was this riff right here. Maybe some of you will recognize it, and it's going to be loud in here because I'm playing through this 50 watt plexi thingy clone, and it sounds real good, but it's for me. I can't get that tone. You know, I mean, I've tried it through, you know, the limited number of amps that I have and overdrive pedals and whatnot. And, you know, a lot of that tone, you know, obviously comes out of Joe Perry's fingers, and, you know, probably a couple $100,000 in post-production processing, but who knows? I don't even know what he used to record it. I like to think that he probably used his 59 Les Paul, but who knows? I mean, that guy uses tons of different guitars for everything, and he seems to get the greatest tones out of every guitar that he plays. But that was one of the very, very first songs that I remember listening to that guitar sound and just being like, that just has the right spice to it, you know. I mean, it's, you know, an overdriven guitar could be described as just a bland dish of certain ingredients, and each guitarist puts their own little twist on it. And then there's tons of different stuff. Like take Eddie, the overdriven plexi 100 watt, and he throws in a phaser and a flanger, and he's got reverb, and he pans it to the right, and he's got a variac, and he's dropping the voltages down and getting that sag, and he's got this cobbled together guitar he probably paid $150 in parts for, and he builds a guitar tone that arguably is probably one of the most influential sounds in music in the last 100 years. So there's that. But like for me, it was Aerosmith's riff on that song, Same Old Song and Dance. And I just remember listening to, that, and that this part right here. There's something I picked up on that. For years I was playing it on a downstroke. And you can tell that there's just it's not right. It doesn't sound right, I mean, that's not it. It's this. He picks, and this is what it sounds like to me. He picks this D and A string on the upstroke, because it's a totally different sound, and it makes the riff, and I think it makes the tone, right? I'm trying to dial in just the right amount of overdrive, because this amp, it's a small room, and it's blowing me off the chair here, and it's probably distorting the mic, so I'm sure it sounds like crap to the phone. One of these days I'll do a proper recording and put a mic in front of that thing and record that, and believe me, because it sounds fabulous, but it's a total different vibe, It's not the downstroke like this. It doesn't go like this. Totally different sound. So, and I think, when I first started playing that riff, and I actually learned it from my cousin. That was one of the first times I seen him wailing on his electric guitar. He had a Gibson Explorer, or an Explorer clone, and he was jamming away on that, and on a crate amp, back when crates were actually built in wooden crates. So, so what makes these tones, the secret sauce, and the little bit of the dash of this, and the little bit of that, and the tweak of this, and you can go down a rabbit hole chasing tones on a guitar, but and then sometimes it's just plug straight into a cranked Marshall, like I have right here. Dude, it's so loud in here. But God, I'm gonna need a hearing aid after I'm done this. But I'm messing around right now. I'm an overdrive guy. I constantly am looking for the overdrives that are transparent, but they just push the amp over the edge, and I just got this Wampler Tumnus Deluxe, man, and it's pretty cool so far. I'm still messing with it. I'll probably put together a video of how it sounds. I got a couple different amps that I want to kind of play it through, but I don't like using an overdrive to take a clean amp to the edge of breakup. I like to use an overdrive to take an amp that is just dirty enough, and then pushing to get into a little more saturation. Now, different amps with their circuits, it changes. Like an overdrive pedal in front of a plexi is not going to sound the same as it will in front of a Fender Tweed or anything like that. I mean, it's just a completely different animal. So, and then there's times where I use the overdrive as just a boost, to just make what I'm playing louder, and that's cool. And then there's times where I'm trying to dial in a certain sound, a certain tone, and it's hard, like every one of these is different. This is a 58 reissue. This is a 2018, I think. Maybe it's 2019. I don't know. But it sounds great. It's got the mojo, man, that's for sure. But I don't know how many rolled off the assembly line from Gibson the year I bought this, but every one of them sounds different. Doesn't matter. It could be all the same wood, and maybe they're even built by the same people on the same production line, but they're all different, you know. And amplifiers, they're the same thing too, right? Each potentiometer has a plus or minus in its tolerances. The same thing for your pedals; they have a plus or minus in their tolerances. And you know, what's his name? Steve Wampler actually put a video out about that. Why there are some pedals that are just great, and then there are some pedals that are just mediocre to the ear, and they could be the same manufacturer, the same pedal. And he talked about the tolerances and the potentiometers that are inside of them. So that makes a big deal. Like some people saying, "Oh, the older one sounds better." Well, he was like, it's really probably more likely the tolerances of the components are different. So, you know, and those little things add up. You know, you have the tolerances in the pots in the guitar versus the tolerances on the you know, what effect you're using into your amp and the controls on that, and then the tolerances to the components inside. They're all different, you know. They just fall within a certain area, and the factory sends them out. And so each one is a slightly different shade of the same color. And you know, and that's how great music's made, right? That's really it. You know, that's how these unique sounds are laid down. I mean, like, how can I get that sound? Well, you probably never will. You know, nobody's going to duplicate perfectly Eddie's tone, because you might even use his exact rig that he used to record Van Halen 1. And you know, if you have that, you know, access to that equipment, but you don't have his fingers, you know, and the hands of these guys. And it's like I said, you know, that's that song, you know, Same Old Song and Dance, is where I really learned that the nuances of tone and how guitars sound, like that simple, you know, not a downstroke, but an upstroke. Just a complete different, just completely changes it. And you know, the riff is different and it sounds better. So that's what I'm messing around with. What gear am I playing today? Well, this is I think this is a 2018. The 1958 reissue Les Paul. I bought it new. You know, kind of a plain top, not much in the way of flame. Gotta be honest with you. I mean, I like flame, but I also like a subtle color. This is a nice T-burst. I think these are custom buckers, I guess. It has this VOS finish to it, where it's not exactly like super high gloss, so it might like kind of look glossy in the camera, but it's really not. And it's got this, like, it wasn't run through a buffing machine, and the metal's oxidized on it, so it gives it that vintage vibe. But it's cool. I like it. It's a great guitar. One of the best I've ever played. I've played a bunch of these. I've never played a real one, but you know, a real burst. I've never played a real burst, but it's got a great neck profile. Chunky as hell, but I like that. Got kind of big mitts, but yeah. So I'm playing that through a Rocket Retro Plexi. It's a Rocket Retro 50. It's a Marshall Plexi clone. It's all hand wired, point to point, turret wired, and everything. It's a great amp. It sounds phenomenal, loud, way loud. But it has a post phase inverter master volume wired into it, so you can dial it down to, I don't want to say bedroom level, because anything at like a talking level on a tube amp just sounds way compressed and sounds like it's, you know, hiding under the cushion of your couch. I've played tons of amps that are like, oh, it's a 1 watt amp and it's going to sound great at bedroom levels. Nope, doesn't sound great. It's not pushing the air. And I'm playing it through a 2x12 Avatar cabinet with, what the hell are they? Oh, they're greenbacks. So, well, greenbacks, it's the Helitone 60s, which are supposedly greenbacks that are broken in. But it's a great combo. Not a combo, but it's a great pairing. It sounds really good. Loud as hell, but it sounds really good. It's got that thump, you know. And I'm just plugged into the high input on the #1 channel. Sometimes I jump it, you know. to get the amp to, blend both of the channels. I'm running at about the volume on that channel about half, and there's no effects or anything. I'm not running anything, and it's right there. And everything else is probably running about noon on the bass. I got the mids dialed back a little bit, and the presence is at about 1 o'clock. Everything else is pretty much at noon. So that's what I'm noodling with today. Yeah, so pretty cool stuff. You don't hear this too much anymore, I mean, yeah, there's rock out there, but there's not any bands like Aerosmith anymore, they're the real deal, right? I mean, those guys came up through the club scene, or from Boston, from the Northeast, gritty. Their music is like just got a little bit of sleaze to it, especially their early stuff. It's grindy. I don't even know if that's the right term, but it's dirty. I think I saw an interview with Steven Tyler, and he said every song that he had ever written was about sex. And I've yet to listen to an Aerosmith song that didn't have the underlying theme of sex or romance or something to that matter, or the lyrics had alluded to that. Those guys they're the real deal. They could be the last great rock band in existence. Now, I know, don't tell me, the Rolling Stones are still around, or the Who are still getting together and play, but man, I've seen Aerosmith 4, 5, 6 times, and I've seen them, late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, early 2000s, up until I think maybe 4 years ago. I don't know. We saw them, and I mean, you're selling out, 25,000, 30,000 seat arenas, and girls who are, in their early 20s are taking their panties off from underneath their skirts and throwing them on stage to Steven Tyler. That's a rock star. Those guys are true rock stars. So that's today's gig, just jamming some Aerosmith and remembering some of the stuff that, really shaped what I like to listen to as a guitarist and what I try to emulate. Joe Perry is a huge influence when I was a kid growing up, along with all the other greats, Eddie Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix and just all those guys. But there's few guitarists out there that can navigate the landscape of sound like a guy like Joe Perry can. He can play any guitar and through any amp, and it all sounds good, even if the tone is something like, wow, that sounds really different, but it's a great guitar tone. Listen to it; it sounds great, But it's the songwriting too. I mean, Steven Tyler and Joe Perry are one of the greatest songwriting duos in history. I mean, I put them right up there in the top 10 with anybody else. So a lot of fun listening to that stuff. A lot of fun just trying to dial these tones in and just do all this cool stuff, and that it goes into the modern stuff too, in the early 90s, grunge came out and just basically killed hair metal, right? And there was some great players in the 80s. Those guys, they were technically proficient, and they had incredible tones too. A lot of guys were playing through JCM 800s that were either standard or factory or modded or whatever. But then along comes these guys from Seattle, and they change everything. And I was listening to Pearl Jam, and one of my favorite songs is Corduroy. That whole. But the riff in that is just straight up overdrive, great saturated guitar tone. It's loud, it's raw, it's in your face. That's killer, right? I listen to that and that takes me back to, that just listening to the guitar's tone. So, that's about it for today. So one of these days I will go through my meager collection of guitars and try to demo everything. And like I said, this is my diary, so that when I'm not around anymore, people can look back and my family and friends will be like, oh yeah, look at that, that's cool, I remember that. And people wondering what guitars I had and all this stuff back in the day. Well, yeah, it rotates, right? So, but right now, this is my girl. I've been messing around with her for the last couple days. I have an R9. I think it's a 2012 or 2013 R9. It's beautiful. Lemon burst. It's sitting right over there, but I don't play it that much. Sounds fantastic. Got a lot of mojo, but I don't know. Probably gonna unload it. And then I just got two Les Paul traditionals or standards. I don't know what they are. And one's a plain top, and it's probably my second favorite Les Paul. And then I got a traditional Heritage Cherry Sunburst, beautiful, but that's another one. I don't know. I might put this down though, and I might not play it for 6 months, and I'll be noodling on one of the other ones in the rack over there or whatever. So anyways, I'll hear a tone. Like, I think the last video I was listening to Black Crowes, and I'm like, man, that opening riff to Twice as Hard, that's a great guitar tone, right? And like, I just seen Rich Robinson wailing on a Telecaster in the video. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go up and get my telly out and plug it in and see if I can come close to that guitar tone and whatnot. But so yeah, anyways, this is running on, so take care, rock on. I hope everybody likes it. And yeah, man, just listen to some great music and trying to dial in some good tone.